Hello, folks. Here is another tutorial for you, which is AZ-900. I also put a architecture tutorial back in days. If you want, you can check it out. However, I keep getting all these questions all the time. How do we get started? How are we going to learn? So what I'm going to do, I will do a practice test and I'll go through here and each and every question and we'll try to explain. And chances are I will also be making the mistake like everybody does for the first time. And then we'll learn it with the documentation. Before I get into that, uh, this is the expectation. If you are going to be a salesperson, pre-sales, some of them along those lines, this is what is targeted towards. If you have a couple of years of experience and IT, you wanted to learn the basics, you may not have to do the certification depending what's your career path. You want to become an engineer, security engineer, or cloud engineer, then you have to target some other certification. For sake of learning, this is a very good way to start to understand the fundamentals, the foundations, and then you can describe the architectural component in Azure, such as compute, networking, and storage. Pretty much every cloud provider, but you need to the term used and what does it offer. That's why it is important. How does it work? You can also be able to describe the features like how to secure, how to govern, and how to administer to Azure. I put another video for SC900, which is security and compliance. You may want to take a look. Let's talk about all that different security and governance. And you also have skills around infrastructure management. So basically, IT infrastructure is everything from storage, Cisco and Palo Alto firewalls, computer network, the old school infrastructure, like usually if it happens in an on-site office, if you go to work for a bank or financial company, whichever, you go to office and they give you a computer and laptop, but when you have access to internet and everything, so things run in the background, which you do not know, with like a file storage, firewalls and all that. And usually these companies have HR system, database system and all that. So that's why they run uh, 8, 10 database servers to 50 database servers. So that's part of the infrastructure as well, software development and all that stuff. Um, skills measured, 40% will come from Azure architecture and services. 35% maximum can come from Azure management and governance. Cloud concepts are 30%. And then you can start reading each individual section by yourself. You go to instructor led, or you can do the self-paced, which I will recommend you. If you're a self-taught person, start with, and there are 4 modules. Um, and then basic stuff, right? And then the 46-minute reading and all that, it also talks about what is Azure storage count. So you need to know on a very high level. So that being said, let's get into the practice test. So I'm doing it first time, so expect me to make mistakes because who knows, there's some basic stuff I may not even know it. So which two attributes are characteristics of the private cloud deployment model? And then select each answer presents a solution. So first you need to understand the private cloud. So you need to understand there are three type of cloud deployment model: private, public, and hybrid. So public cloud means if you're a startup and you set up everything in the cloud, this is it. Everything in the cloud means 100%. Um, a private cloud means a company has their own data center and they manage everything, which is very old school, which is very common for the last 20, 30 years. Every company, they have their router, switches, server, file server, database server, email server, and everything. They own it, control it, means they have full control of the hardware, full control of the network switches, so physical devices in their offices. And third model is the combination of public and private, which is called hybrid. Means they have firewall and switches on premises, but as long as they go to the cloud, they have converted and migrated these things to the virtual appliances. So that's the concept. So this is what you need to know. So what are the characteristics of private cloud? So basically, the question is to test your knowledge. What is a private cloud? I mentioned a word called hardware. In a private cloud, a company, the customer owns the hardware. So they have to purchase the hardware. So let's say if a company wants to open a new branch, what they do, they need on the branch, they need a file server, they will need Active Directory server, they will need a database server, they will need firewall, Cisco, Palo, all the hardware. First, they have to set it up, set up the infrastructure, then they can run the business. Otherwise, that branch office will not be active. And with that said, organization only pay for what they use. This is not applicable because they already made upfront investment for thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is not going to work with that. Application can provision and deprovision quickly. No, that's not possible. So imagine if you have to set up a database server, you need to buy the storage, you need to buy the SQL Server license and all that. That can take weeks and weeks. However, in the cloud, with few button of click from your mouse, you can set it up. So this is not even applicable. But in the cloud environment, you do not have physical access. And this is where these things make sense. The company has complete over control to the physical resources and security. So they buy the hardware, and of course they do have access physically on all those resources. So this is how it works basically. In a private cloud environment, a company has full access and it has its own benefits, pros and cons. So every large organization you see anywhere in the world, especially here in US or everywhere, they have hybrid. Any health insurance provider, any bank, financials, you name it, they all have hybrid. They cannot afford to go 100% in the cloud because this is not the model. They will keep their hybrid environment, and they will always have some application which are cloud native and all this. So that's what the private cloud is. Hardware must be purchased in advance, and the company has complete control over physical resources. Let's check. And then, as I said, you can go back here, do the self-learning, define cloud computing. You need to understand the shared responsibility model, cloud model, as I just explained you, 3 model right here. You need to know. I identify the use cases. As I said, you need to know, define consumption-based model, knowledge check, and all that. So regardless of what your level of knowledge, go through it is highly recommended to understand the basics, and these basics are applicable whether you go with Microsoft Cloud or non-Microsoft, AWS, GCP, regardless. The concept remains the same. Next, what are the 2 characteristics of the public cloud deployment model? Okay, previous was private, now it's talking about public. Each correct answer present. So means totally opposite. So let's see. Computing resources are used exclusively by user from one organization. No, absolutely not. Public cloud is for everyone. Everybody's shared. So we take it out. That's not applicable. Hardware is physically located in organization on-site data center. No, that's not even applicable because public cloud is a cloud where a customer do not have access to anything physical. You just get everything virtual on a dashboard, on a management plane, something like this. If we go to portal.azure, the one I have, right? I have these VMs and everything. So if I need to create a VM, I will just go create a VM. So even I can click this virtual machine on a button of a mouse, right? So I'm not buying any hardware. I'm not buying any storage, network card, router, switches. I will just click everything. It will get IP address and everything within a button of a mouse. So all these services, what you see here, I don't need to have access, physical access to any of these. I can spin up a database server. I can spin up virtual machines, as I said, ton of stuff. So this is not applicable. This is not applicable. Servers and storage are owned and operated by third-party cloud service provider. Yes, in that case, Azure or Microsoft. Services are offered over the internet, are available to anyone who wants to purchase it. Absolutely. You can even go and purchase by putting your card. Let's check. Awesome. Right. And then you can do further reading from here. Let me do one more. What are the two characteristics of consumption-based model? So you need to understand what is a consumption-based model. If you go back, we were talking about consumption-based model. So you can see in the article, for some reason, yeah. So you need to understand what is a consumption-based model, where are the concept around CapEx and OpEx. Operational expenditure here is called about capital expenditure, which means it's an upfront cost. You have to spend thousands of dollars like on-prem data center. Operational cost is mean pay as you go. So here, consumption-based model is high capital expenditure. No, that's a capital expenditure, CapEx, so it's not applicable. No upfront cost, yes, pay as you go. So we'll select this. Require the purchase and management of physical infrastructure. Absolutely, this is not going to work. This is not applicable at all. The ability to stop paying for resources that are no longer used. Yes. So if I go here and I have this machine called marketing, if I can go and pay as you go model, you see here, and I can go, and if I want, I can even delete it. So there must delete, even I can delete the resource group in the whole process. So this is what I want to just show you there. Let's check the answer. There you go. I think you want me to do one more. Why is cloud computing often less expensive than on-premises data center? So take an example. You have to select one. I'll be real quick. Cloud services offering has limited network bandwidth is free. No, services are only offered in a single geographic location. No, you are only built for the service what you use. Yes, absolutely. This is the correct answer. But before I do that, the practical real life experience, this is not always true. They can be expensive in some scenarios, but generally the general understanding is they are less expensive. Why? If you're a startup and if you have only 50,000 budget, and if you set up a data center which will cost you $1 million or $5 million, so that's why in just 50,000 budget you can start your own startup. Even with $5,000, you can set up a whole infrastructure in Azure cloud. But for a data center, you need, we're talking about $1 million at least, just to put few servers. The cost to run that for a year, few servers, and people to manage and all that's very expensive, right? So for a startup with $1 million, you don't want to start and spend the money in a data center. You would rather set up your infrastructure in the cloud. That's why it is less expensive. So I hope this is helpful and you're able to make sense of this Azure AZ-900. And when it comes to become a more senior role, engineer role, and architect role, expectation is that you should be able to implement those solutions, right? Which we talked about public cloud and private cloud and storage, we talked about it. Then you are an engineer need to understand and be able to implement it. And at an architect level, you need to know even more because you have to understand the business problem and challenges and pick up the solution within the Microsoft Azure Entra, whichever services makes the most sense. Then you have to design the solution. Same thing goes with the security. So this is AZ-900. Hopefully you like it. SC-900, I also put it together. If it's published, go take a look. And you cannot go wrong learning the fundamentals. It is very important. And this is your path to become a cloud engineer and a cloud security engineer. This is also highly recommend. Even if you're looking for security, you must know these basic concepts. So I would highly recommend. I hope this is helpful. Let me know in the comments. And we'll see you in the next video. Thank you and bye.